And it's so rewarding to me to help entrepreneurs clarify the way that they communicate about their passion from stages, because I think the risk is sometimes when we are super excited about something, it all makes sense in our head. And I've seen too many speakers get up on stage and share the passion in a way that probably makes perfect sense to them, but the audience is left going, "Oh my word, what just happened? What was that? I don't understand half the words that just came out of that person's mouth." So for me, passion is about communication. And I truly love when I have the opportunity to help others share that passion in a way that will be heard and make an impact on their audience.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Passion Institute podcast. I am so excited about our guest today. Miranda Barrett founded Mind the Mic Consulting. And the reason that she founded that was that she wanted to bring together her passion for helping entrepreneurs shine and the love that she has for events that actually make an impact as well. She was part of the Entrepreneurs Organization Global Staff Team for 10 years, which is where I had the opportunity to meet her after she'd left. And she was actually helping a bunch of speakers on a particular event that I was speaking at. And the idea was to be able to double the size of EO and the geographical reach and what she was trying to achieve there. She was also, during this particular time, also a very active member of the association executive community, speaking at different industry conferences and writing publications about leadership and membership organisations. She's now also part of the EO Accelerators program, and she's growing her business through supporting entrepreneurs on their journey as well. She remains both active in the entrepreneurial and the association communities, and the idea is that she wants to bridge that gap between connecting great speakers with the right organisations so that those speakers have more impact as well. I could keep going talking to her about it. I was recently in Washington. She took me on this extraordinary walk around Washington, and one of her first jobs was to be the trip coordinator in the Clinton White House. She currently lives in Washington, D.C., so thank you for joining me at a very late time. Miranda, welcome.
Oh, Shivani, we are going to have too much fun. I'm so excited.
Yeah, and look, your CV is so long in terms of all the different things that you've done. So let's get straight into it, Miranda. Tell me a little bit about this word passion. We call it the Passion Institute podcast. I want to know what this word passion means to you. I know that it was in your bio that I just read out, but talk me through what that means to you and what that has meant to you.
Absolutely. And that is just such a great question to open with, because for me, passion has meant in the past talking about something until I just start to annoy all the people around me. When I think back and started a list of things that I'm truly passionate about, there's probably been times when my husband and close friends were like, "Enough, like please, new topic." And so I think a large portion of passion is about communicating. And Shivani, in your TED talk, I was really struck by what you said about when you're passionate about something, you're compelled to share it. And it really draws me towards my purpose of better speakers and better communicators from stages. Because when you're passionate about something, hopefully you're on stages speaking about it. And it's so rewarding to me to help entrepreneurs clarify the way that they communicate about their passion from stages. Because I think the risk is sometimes when we are super excited about something, it all makes sense in our head. And I've seen too many speakers get up on stage and share the passion in a way that probably makes perfect sense to them, but the audience is left going, "Oh my word, what just happened? What was that? I don't understand half the words that just came out of that person's mouth." So for me, passion is about communication. And I truly love when I have the opportunity to help others share that passion in a way that will be heard and make an impact on their audience.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. It's really about helping them communicate what that they're trying to do there. Miranda, let's talk a little bit about when we're not that passionate. We all have challenges that come our way. We all have adversity that we have to face, but often they become the core of who we are. And so I'd love if you would share a couple of examples where you've had to face those challenges and adversity, and how's that kind of transformed you into who you are.
Absolutely. And when I think about this question, it takes me back to a time that I imagine a lot of us had a lot of challenges, and that was the pandemic. And for me, my family had a unique experience where we moved out of the city and went and lived on a farm for 18 months. And that may sound like the most idyllic, perfect experience. And a lot of the time it was. But there were times where I just felt I had this loss of identity and this loneliness. I ended up quitting this big corporate job that I had at the time. The kids were home full time, as we all experienced. And I made this decision that we were just going to go all in and have as much fun as possible at this farm. But there were these low moments where, I had given up a job that I loved. It felt like I had lost my career. I was away from my friends, away from my hometown, all those things. And so it was really challenging. And for me, finding new passions. We started fostering puppies and dogs. We acquired chickens and goats and all sorts of these other things. And so I found my passion in deciding, like, okay, we have this limited time, hopefully it's going to come to an end, and we are just going to go 2 feet in all the way. We are farmers now, and we're just going to figure this out. And, my husband started jokingly calling me the pandemic house manager because I threw myself in and found my passion in doing all these new things, Googling things like, what's wrong with my chicken's foot and how to birth puppies. And just having all these new experiences while my city friends were following me on social media, just cracking up because they couldn't understand, what had happened to me. And looking back now, I really appreciate that I was able to find that passion and have all those experiences because it feels like a million miles away now. And it's just such a phenomenal thing to have in my past and be able to share as a fun fact. It talks like this.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that story. Googling, all sorts of things. What's wrong with my chicken feet? That's hilarious. I
Oh, I
wasn't
made a list at
following.
one point of things that I Googled, and it was just really, how do you call the Coast Guard, when our boat died in the water? Things that you shouldn't be Googling at the time.
Um, Rena, you've been part of bigger organizations. You are now running your own business and you're growing and scaling that. We all talk about having been surrounded by passionate people. We want passionate people that we work with in our teams, even people we work for, and even in the family setting. We all want to be surrounded by family members and friends that are passionate as well. What do you share with me a couple of tips, some of the learnings that you've had around, how do you go around creating people that are more linked into their passions, but are leading passionate? And I know that you're doing that with your work now, but talk me through some of the other things in the past and also the present of how you go around helping create passionate people.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I am passionate about is my work at a summer camp for girls that I do every summer. It's just one of the highlights of my year, and I think it's a really interesting case study of how you find children because it's with children, but I think it translates so beautifully to adults. So, every summer a new group of girls arrive from all over the country, between ages 8 to 18. So little ones all the way up to grumpy teenagers, and they're in this new environment and they're not really excited about anything. They're nervous if it's their first year. And it's getting them to try those new things and letting them follow what their interests are. And then suddenly you'll have a little girl who is just something passionate about pottery. And she wants up talking about how much she loves spinning the wheel and making the vases and everything else. And then you'll have another one who's suddenly passionate about tennis or swimming or horseback riding or whatever it is, by just giving them the space to explore that. And in our businesses, we don't always have the luxury of saying, okay, you go follow your passion, and I'm sure the marketing will just look after itself, right? But when we can tap it into that person's why and their values, like what they hold truly dear. And so, for example, I have an extraordinary team member who's just passionate about always being supportive. And it's just so wonderful to have her in my orbit. And so, in those cases, expressing my appreciation, giving her those opportunities, letting her see the impact of the work that we do, really taps into what she's passionate about and keeps her motivated to be, at my side as we're struggling through the early days of growing a startup.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? Really, it takes that so much effort to really try and understand people to be able to do that as well. The next question, Miranda, is such a broad question. Almost I thought, when I asked that, I always feel like sometimes I'm being really unfair. And all the business things that you've learned, I want to know a couple of your top two learnings, a couple of learnings. And look, that might be you keep relearning that and it keeps coming up, or it might be something that you learned a long time ago that you kind of live by. So be really interested. And I know if I asked you for 100, you could give me 100, but I'm just wondering if you could share a couple with us.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two that come to mind, and one's from quite a long time ago, and one's a little bit more recent. And the first comes from my experience working at summer camp as a counselor. So this would have been 1998. And one of the activities we have at camp is rock climbing. And we have this big, beautiful alpine tower, where you're strapped in your climbing harness and up you go. And what you see with a lot of new climbers is they have a tendency to want to just lean in and grip the pole or grip the rock as tightly as possible. When in fact it's leaning out and trusting your feet that creates more of an angle that you have better grip, better purchase on whatever you're climbing. And as an earlier climber, when I was 18, 19, I was going up and someone was belaying me, with the rope, and they yell up to me, "You have to trust your feet." And that has always just stuck with me, the idea of trusting our feet, because they're more secure than we think. And when I'm faced with a challenge, a situation where I feel uncomfortable, unprepared, insecure, that's something that always just comes back to me, to trust your feet. And in a way, it's the leaning out, leaning towards what feels like the risk that can make you more secure and help you keep climbing. So that's my first, and that's from summer camp, of course, where many of my lessons come from. And the second was for my time at the Entrepreneurs Organization. And working in, I think, a nonprofit, there tends to be a bit more bureaucracy times. There's a lot of committees, a lot of stakeholders, everyone wants to have a voice. And I realized early on that there was always a reason not to do something. There's always a reason to wait for, another meeting that was coming around, or the end of the fiscal year, or the budget's due this day, all these times. And in my mind, I realized that there's always a reason to not do something. But if you do that, you will constantly be paralyzed. And I would much rather take 5 steps forward and have to take one back than continuously wait for someone to give me permission to take all 5. So keeping that in mind, and building a new business for a new entrepreneur can be very uncomfortable at times, right? And I think our brains, in the effort to keep us safe, always come up with reasons to not do something. And being able to call BS on that and say, okay, we'll take 5 steps forward and maybe we have to take 1 or 2 back, but we still made progress, and just keep pushing forward is something that I try to live by.
Great wisdom. Great wisdom. Trust your feet. How good is that? And almost sounds like a couple of things my meditation teacher would say. You got to ground in and you got to trust your feet. Um, um, Brenda, we all have challenges. Challenges come our way all the time. And some people are very systemized about how they deal with it. Some people, they have this emotional process. Some people yell on screens. So what is like when challenges come your way? Do you have a methodology or a system or a ritual? Like, how do you go about breaking up that challenge or addressing that challenge, when it comes your way? Talk me through that.
For sure. And I think being in our second year of business, you end up dealing with a lot more challenges than you expect, certainly. And it just feels like a daily occurrence. So going back to, there's always a reason not to do something. And when you keep moving forward through all that, you're going to get things wrong, right? There's things that are going to happen that you wish had gone a different way. And I try to take the approach that before we can do something really well, we have to do it poorly and we have to get it wrong. So I think I'm able to tap into a little bit of gratitude, because when something does go wrong, we can say, okay, yep, great. That was going to happen. We've checked that one off the box. Now we can move on to doing it well with that knowledge. So yes, so the past 18 months, plenty of mistakes have been made. In hindsight, things I wish I could have done differently, but we don't get that knowledge, right? And we have to take the time to do it poorly before we can gain that knowledge and be able to do it well. So, example, I've been trying out all sorts of fun new broadcasting tools for webinars, and tried hosting something where I had a cool green screen, I was using new broadcasting software, Ecamm, all these things. Oh, and I wasn't ready, and I fumbled, and it was just a complete, like, I pulled the plug at the last minute. I was like, okay, that happened, now we know, and the next time is going to be brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. And it's that evolving and the learning from it, isn't it? It's not just about the challenges and and how you do that. That's awesome. What about the future? I know it's year 2, as you said, of the business. I know you're building and scaling and helping a bunch of people around the world, which is amazing. I know you've certainly helped me in some of the work that and the impact that I've been trying to have. So thank you for that. I just want to know future passions. Like, is it the same passions that you want to amplify? Are there things in the future that you go, I want to be passionate about that, but I'm going to take my time. I'm going to get that to that next. So talk me through about what your future looks like and what sort of passions are you running and living by?
For sure. And I'm so mindful. There's an amazing quote that most small businesses don't die of starvation, they die of indigestion. And I've been reminded of that several times, even in the last month, as there are things that I'm so passionate about, and I'm probably spreading myself too thin across all of them. And it's like, oh yeah, there's indigestion in the business and in the tummy. And for me, it's been about, trying to channel my passions and have that discipline, to your TED talk, about which ones we choose to pursue. So I'm really passionate. I think events are a huge opportunity for us, being able to work with people and organizers who want to deliver an exceptional experience to their audience. So really passionate about the opportunity to help it scale. So we love working with one-on-one speakers for sure. That's my background, my time with EO, working with entrepreneurs. But when we work with an event, we can impact multiple thousands of audience members all at the same time by making sure that every single one of those speakers, and sometimes an event can have upwards of 100 speakers, are fully prepared to deliver their best. So I'm super passionate about that for the business. And then planning to train for a marathon this year. So getting excited for that, doing some more speaking myself. And finally, really excited to start learning the ukulele this year.
Wow, I love the diversity of that list. There's a marathon in there, a musical instrument in there, obviously scaling and growing your business, but also as a speaker. Wow, I love that. That's a wide array of passions. And in that work that you do, like you've got a big list of goals, and obviously you've just shared some of that. I'm sure there'd be more that you'd share if I said, hey, can we talk about this for another 10 minutes? What about how do you manage your own wellness? How do you manage your own, whether it's, physical, mental, emotional? I know that we spend a lot of time talking about mental wellness, and I just think it's so important that for leaders and entrepreneurs who are listening into that podcast, that while we're giving all of this and setting all of these things, how do we manage that? And so again, do you do stuff daily or yearly? Like, what are your rituals? What are some of the things that you do? Obviously, it sounds like you're a marathon runner, and obviously you would be training a bunch for that, but talk us through, how do you manage your wellness, whatever aspect of wellness you want to focus on?
For sure. So on this is something like I think many listeners and I continue to struggle with, like how we prioritize our own wellness over the 100 things that we also need to cram into our day. So for me, one of the easiest things is doing a boot camp at 5:30 in the morning. And that may sound dreadful to some people, but the great thing about doing that is that I don't fully wake up until camp has already started. And by that point, it's too late. You're stuck. And and you just knock that out like it's not even a question, it's going to happen, and then you don't have to worry about it later in the day. So that's daily. I used to be much better about meditating and mindfulness and visioning and all those wonderful things, and that kind of got sacrificed in the name of a 5:30 gym class. So, one of the things just on an annual basis, going to work for a summer camp for 2 weeks is a huge mental health boost for me. I just truly enjoy being in that environment. It's one of my passions. And I definitely dial back work in the summertime. It's, I think, one of the reasons that I can never go back to being employed ever again, because I truly value having that freedom in the summer where I load up the kids and we do road trips and we travel and we visit friends and family. And we go to our camps and we do hiking and all those fun things. So for me, I get a lot of joy out of being able to work as hard as I possibly can for about 9.5 months of the year, and then really dial it back and chill out for the summer times here in the US, which is a lot of fun for me. And those combination things, like, yes, I'd like to have more time in the morning to meditate. I'm not willing to wake up before 5 a.m. I think I've kind of hit the ceiling on how early I can get out of bed in the morning. But those combination of things seem to keep me in a good place.
Yeah, anything in the four starts to go. That's a bit.
I
That's a
know that's
bit
what the difference between like getting up early and getting up in the middle of the night.
of. Yeah, I get up at 5, and I'm the opposite. I wake up when I meditate, right, and that's why we're also different in terms of how we do the different things that kind of get us aligned into terms of what we're actually doing as well. Um, Miranda, I could keep talking to you forever. But one of the things I want to know is some of the work. Tell me a little bit about the work you're doing, but also tell our audience, when they're wanting to have more impact and they're wanting to live their passions and really help people, and some of the work that you're doing, or, whether they're wanting to run events, etc. Tell us about how do people contact you, get in contact with you best, what platforms to go to. Is there something that they can have a look on your website to get to find out more about you and your work as well?
No, for sure. Well, our website is mindthemic.com. And that's a little bit more about the business. But I truly enjoy posting every day on LinkedIn, where I try to do a good job sharing valuable content, both for speakers and event organizers. As well as, great tips I pick up from incredible speakers like yourself about what helps them find their passion on the stage. So I would say LinkedIn is probably the best way to keep in touch. We do a newsletter as well, where we share regular tips about speaking and the relationship between speakers and the events that host them. So those two things I love. I really enjoy writing. I'm married to a writer, and it's a lot of fun for me being able to, keep sharing everything that I'm learning. So I would recommend that. And it's such a joy of mine to help entrepreneurs who are passionate about what they do, but maybe struggle a little bit in the best way to communicate it from the stage. So, we love working with business owners and founders who just want to teach, they want to show up to give, all those good things. How do they take all that passion and channel it into a presentation that will be well received by an audience?
Magical. That's amazing. That's amazing, Rena. And I loved what you said earlier. I actually wrote that down, that small business owners, don't die of starvation. They die of indigestion because we're trying to do too many things. And so I could really relate. And I think, the audience will really resonate with that. Miranda, such a pleasure. Not enough time, but really appreciate you staying up late for this particular interview in the US. Really looking forward to sharing this. And thank you so much for being on here today.
Thank you so much, Shivani. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on the Passion Institute podcast. If today's episode sparked a new idea or inspired you to maybe take some action or helped you see a business in a new light, we would love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe. It really helps us present a great show. Leave a review and share this episode with other fellow entrepreneurs and leaders who also are ready to make an impact. Remember, passion is the fuel for greatness, and every step you take brings you closer to your vision. Keep dreaming big, leading with purpose, and making waves in the world. Until next time, stay passionate, stay inspired, and keep building your legacy. This is your host, Shivani, and signing on from the Passion Institute podcast. See you soon.